What really happened to Brittany Murphy? She was 32 years old, young, wealthy. At the height of what everyone believed was going to be a long and celebrated career, she had the kind of smile that made you feel like everything was going to be okay, the kind of energy that lit up every room she walked into. On the morning of December 20th, 2009, 4 days before Christmas, Brittany Murphy collapsed on the bathroom floor of her Hollywood Hills home. 2 hours later, she was gone. The official story: pneumonia. But then, 5 months later, in that same house, her husband dropped dead. Same cause, same circumstances, same unanswered questions. 2 people, 1 house, one strange, overlapping story that the coroner, the press, and even the people closest to her couldn't fully explain. So what actually happened to Brittany Murphy? Stay with me, because this one goes much deeper than you think. Part 1. The Girl with the Megawatt Smile. Brittany Ann Murphy was born on November 10, 1977 in Atlanta, Georgia. From the time she was a little girl, it was clear she was something special. She had a natural magnetism, charismatic, funny, and disarmingly real in a town built entirely on pretending. Her parents divorced when she was young, and her mother Sharon raised her mostly on her own. In 1991, when Brittany was just 13, the two of them packed up and moved to Los Angeles. Not for vacation, not for a fresh start, but specifically because Brittany had a gift, and Sharon believed it needed to be nurtured. And she wasn't wrong. By the early 1990s, Brittany was landing small roles in television. Nothing huge yet, but the momentum was building. Then in 1995, everything changed. She walked onto the set of a little film called Clueless, playing Ty, the new girl who gets a makeover and ends up stealing scenes from everyone around her. The movie became a cultural phenomenon, and Brittany Murphy became someone people couldn't stop watching. She followed it up with Girl Interrupted alongside Angelina Jolie, then 8 Mile with Eminem, then Riding in Cars with Boys, Uptown Girls, Just Married, Sin City. Director Penny Marshall, who worked with her on Riding in Cars with Boys, said, and I'm going to remember this quote for a long time, that her timing was impeccable. That she could be funny, she could be dramatic. She was a terrific actress. People close to her said the same thing. Everyone around her seemed to agree. Brittany Murphy was heading somewhere extraordinary. But somewhere along the way, the trajectory shifted. By the mid-2000s, the roles were getting smaller, the tabloids were getting louder, and a man named Simon Monjack had entered her life. Part 2. The man who called himself her everything. Simon Monjack was a British screenwriter, or at least, that's what he called himself. He was born in 1970 in Hillingdon, Greater London, and by the time he made his way to Hollywood, he had already left behind a trail of unpaid debts, broken promises, and people who described him as a compulsive liar. Let me give you a sense of who this man was before Brittany ever met him. Between 1997 and 2006, Monjack was evicted from 4 different homes. He faced arrest warrants in Virginia for credit card fraud and theft, charges that were later dropped, but they existed. A bank sued him for nearly $500,000. His ex-wife, a UK television personality named Simone Bien, successfully sued him for $63,000 he had refused to pay her after their divorce. Some people in his circle gave him a nickname, Conjack, as in con artist with the last name Monjack. He told people he was a world-renowned director. He told people he had property and real estate and stocks and bonds. He claimed he had survived a brain tumor. He fabricated credentials, connections, and personal history so frequently that people who worked with him couldn't agree on a single true fact about him. By the time he met Brittany Murphy in 2006, he was charming, well-dressed, and utterly persuasive. She called him her soulmate. They married quietly in a small Jewish ceremony in April 2007. And then, almost immediately, the people around Brittany started noticing something was wrong. Her longtime team, her agent, her manager, her publicist were gradually cut out. Her fitness trainer, Harley Pasternak, tried to reach her about training for a role and was told she had to let everyone go. Simon was now her agent, her manager, her lawyer, her everything. The director of her final completed film, Alex Merkin, said he could only reach Brittany through Simon. He described the marriage as something that felt completely unhealthy, a manipulative ploy, in his words, to keep his hooks in her. Simon took control of her email account, her phone, her finances. Over the course of roughly 3 years, it's estimated he went through approximately $3 million of her money. And later, when people tried to verify the jewelry and assets he had supposedly purchased for her, every single piece of jewelry turned out to be fake. There are no stocks, no real estate, no bonds. Brittany Murphy was, by 2009, nearly broke and almost completely isolated from the people who had once cared about her most. Part 3. The morning everything ended. By December 2009, people close to Brittany said she hadn't been looking well for some time. She had lost significant weight. She looked pale, exhausted. Her last film, Something Wicked, had co-stars who later told reporters she seemed unwell throughout filming, that there were moments where she physically struggled to get through scenes. But no one called a doctor, no one intervened, and the people who might have tried, her old friends, her team, family members, no longer had direct access to her. On the morning of December 20th, 2009, Brittany Murphy woke up feeling sick. She told her mother she couldn't breathe. She walked out to get some air. According to Simon Monjack, her last words, spoken to her mother, were, "Mom, I'm dying. I love you." Sharon found her daughter unresponsive on the bathroom floor. But here's where the first strange detail enters the picture. Instead of immediately calling 911 or performing CPR, they put her in a cold shower in an attempt to revive her. By the time paramedics arrived, Brittany had been without proper emergency care for a critical stretch of time. The assistant chief coroner who responded to the scene, Ed Winter, later said in the HBO documentary, What Happened, Brittany Murphy, and I want you to hear this clearly. He said, "What's going on? If she is sick, why didn't someone pick up the phone?" Something ain't right. Brittany Murphy was transported to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, where she was pronounced dead at 10:04 a.m. She was 32 years old. The initial cause of death listed on her certificate was deferred, meaning the coroner needed more time. The following year, the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office released its full findings: pneumonia, iron deficiency anemia, and multiple drug intoxication from a combination of prescription medications. Critically, in these matters, no illegal drugs were found in her system. The medications were legally prescribed, but the combination, combined with severe, untreated anemia, had become lethal. The retired medical examiner who performed the autopsy, Dr. Lisa Sheinin, later said publicly that Brittany's red blood cell count at the time of her death was, in her exact words, practically incompatible with life. She added, all Brittany needed was to have gone to the doctor, who would probably have sent her immediately for blood transfusions. She was that sick, and no one had gone her help. During the investigation of the home, Coroner Ed Winter discovered something else that stopped him cold. Approximately 90 prescription bottles sitting on Simon Monjack's bedside table. Several of them were written in third-party names like Lola Manilow, which investigators believed were aliases. When search warrants were issued to the pharmacists involved, they found the prescriptions were coming from multiple different doctors. Something was deeply wrong in that house. But what exactly? Part 4. History repeats itself. Simon Monjack and Sharon Murphy, Brittany's husband and her mother, continued living together in the Hollywood Hills home after Brittany's passing. They gave television interviews. They appeared on Larry King Live. During that appearance, Simon made a comment that raised eyebrows then and still raises them now. When asked why he had not wanted an autopsy performed on his wife, he said in front of Sharon, "This pristine body, curvy in all the right places, with skin like silk. How could I say cut it up in front of her mother?" Within weeks, people were noticing that Simon and Sharon were behaving less like a grieving widower and a grieving mother, and more like something else entirely. They were photographed holding hands. There were reports that they were sharing the same bed. Simon's health, meanwhile, was deteriorating visibly. A friend who visited him just 1 month after Brittany's passing described him as sweating heavily, drinking cognac at odd hours, drifting in and out of sleep mid-conversation. On May 23, 2010, 5 months and 3 days after Brittany Murphy's death, Sharon Murphy walked through the house and found Simon Monjack unconscious on the floor of the master bedroom. She called 911. Paramedics arrived. Simon was pronounced dead at 9:45 p.m. He was 40 years old. The cause of death? Acute pneumonia and severe anemia. The same house, the same diagnosis, the same set of unanswered questions. Ed Winter, the assistant chief coroner, summarized it simply, just like Brittany. The official ruling was that Simon's death was also accidental. Some prescription drugs were detected in the system, but not in lethal quantities. No foul play was determined. But when Simon's mother, Linda, and others close to him were told the results, many of them weren't satisfied. They pointed at the house itself. Part 5. The theories, what people believe. In the years that followed, 4 major theories emerged around the deaths of Brittany Murphy and Simon Monjack. None of them have ever definitively proven. And honestly, that's part of why this case still haunts people. Theory 1. Toxic mold. This one gained serious traction in 2011 when Sharon Murphy, who had previously denied any connection, came forward and stated publicly that she believed the house's toxic mold was responsible for both deaths. Simon Monjack had actually filed a lawsuit against the home's builders and subcontractors before his death, citing inferior materials and a suspected leak in the house. However, the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office investigated and concluded that mold was not a contributing factor to either death. The Department of Public Health was notified about the house as a precaution, because it was, in the coroner's words, unusual to have 2 people die of similar circumstances with pneumonia in the same residence within a few months. But the mold theory was officially ruled out. Theory 2. Prescription drug misuse. This is the closest to what the official record supports. Brittany had elevated levels of hydrocodone, acetaminophen, and chlorpheniramine in her system, legal, over-the-counter, and prescription drugs. But when combined with severe anemia and an active infection, the mixture became catastrophic. The 90 prescription bottles found in Monjack's name, under various aliases, suggest the household's relationship with medication was not a casual one. Investigators found prescriptions being filled across multiple doctors and multiple pharmacies, a pattern that is, at minimum, deeply irregular. Theory 3. Something more deliberate. This is where Brittany's estranged father, Angelo Bertolotti, enters the picture. Bertolotti was not close to his daughter during her lifetime. By most accounts, they were estranged, but after her death, he became one of the most vocal advocates for a deeper investigation. In 2012, he filed suit against the LAPD and the coroner, alleging that the investigation had been mishandled. He won the legal right to have the sample of Brittany's hair, blood, and tissue tested by an independent laboratory, a company called the Carlson Company. Their results were explosive, at least on the surface. According to Bertolotti, the independent testing found high concentrations of 10 different heavy metals in Brittany's system, including barium, which is a component of certain rodent poisons. But here's where you have to be careful. The Los Angeles County Coroner's Office stated publicly that Bertolotti had never shared those test results with them directly for official review, and independent toxicology conducted outside of the formal investigative chain carries a different weight than results obtained through the official process. The heavy metal theory was never officially substantiated, but has never been fully debunked either. Theory 4. Neglect, and the people who let it happen. This one is quieter than the others, less dramatic, but perhaps the most haunting. Brittany Murphy, by the time she died, had been stripped of almost every support system she had. Her team was gone, her friends were cut off, her finances were being managed and drained by a man with a documented history of deception. Her anemia was severe enough that a doctor who saw her blood work would have immediately sent her for transfusions. But no doctor saw her. No one with medical knowledge seems to have assessed how serious her condition was. When she collapsed, instead of CPR and an emergency call, she was put in a cold shower. The question isn't just what killed Brittany Murphy. The question is, who in that house had both the knowledge and the motive to keep her from getting help? And that question has never been answered. Part 6. What Remains. Over a decade later, documentaries have revisited this case. HBO Max released What Happened, Brittany Murphy, in 2021. Investigation Discovery examined the story. Investigators, journalists, and people who knew Brittany have all weighed in, and they still can't agree on what really happened inside that house. What we do know is this: a young woman who is enormously talented, who made millions of people laugh, cry, and feel something real through a screen, spent the final years of her life increasingly isolated, financially depleted, and physically unwell in a house with a man whose entire identity may have been a construction. She died in a bathroom 4 days before Christmas, while the people who loved her most had no idea how sick she had become. And then he died there too. Director Alex Merkin placed her in the same category as Marilyn Monroe and James Dean, artists who left too soon, whose genius was clear to everyone around them, whose legacies are forever tangled with the question of what could have been. Brittany Murphy's hematocrit, her red blood cell count, was, in the medical examiner's own words, practically incompatible with life. She had been walking around, going to work, smiling for cameras, in a body that was quietly shutting down. Someone in that house knew how sick she was. Whether that knowledge was criminal, negligent, or something else entirely, that's a question the official record never fully answered. And maybe that's the most disturbing part of all. Not that she died, but that she didn't have to. If you followed this story as long as some of us have, you know that the frustrating truth is that there may never be a clean resolution. No confession, no courtroom, no smoking gun. What we're left with is a collection of details that, individually, might have explanations, but together form a picture that is deeply unsettling. A man with a fraudulent past gaining total control over a woman's life, 90 prescription bottles in different names, a delay in emergency response, 2 eerily similar deaths in one house, independent testing that raised questions no one in authority chose to officially pursue. If you have thoughts on this, if you followed the case, if you've seen the documentary, if you have a theory, let me know in the comments. I genuinely read them. And if you're new here and this is your first time watching, welcome. This is the kind of content we do. Real stories, real questions, no easy answers. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you in the next one.